Hey, hi, hello, what's up? Welcome to the Super Deformed Gamescast where we talk about games. My name is Jay, and tonight I'm joined by John and Brendan and our special guest Rex. Rex, what's up?
Hi guys.
Hello.
Jay, that was a great job. You did fantastic.
Tell yourself so the viewers know about yourself.
It lacked the video
Uh,
content of Jeff's introduction, but it's still pretty good.
It's still solid.
well, most people probably know me from forums that shall not be named, but I am a teacher in Japan, and I've been here for about 5 years now. I'll probably be leaving Japan though in the next 6 or 7 months.
Yeah, it's time for you to get out of there. You've been there long enough.
It's been a while, yeah. So I'm ready for something new, I think.
Yeah,
But,
I've heard
That sounds awesome.
But yeah, I'm a big proponent of sales gaff and or sales tracking and
Sales era.
industry sales.
sales
Yeah.
era. Sales era, man.
Sales era, yeah.
More.
Still getting used to the whole new name thing.
We don't truck with no NeoGAF anymore.
We all are.
We're
I
beyond
mean,
that, man.
yeah.
We moved on.
Yeah. So yeah, and I tend to like playing games every now and again. Hence why I'm on here and talking to you guys. I've played with you guys on a few things. Yeah.
Each other.
I'm here to talk about hockey. I don't know about you motherfuckers, but
But you
Anyway.
know what? Speaking of video game topics, these are the topics we're going to discuss tonight. And you like video game announcements, we're going to be discussing the Paris Game Show, which involved a bunch of PlayStation announcements. Also, we're going to be talking about the releases of games such as Wolfenstein 2, Super Mario Odyssey, Assassin's Creed Origins, and Bubsy, the Woolly Strike Back.
well,
Can't forget that last one.
yeah, no. So
And then afterwards,
Go ahead. Go. Sorry. Go ahead. By the way,
we're going to be discussing Game Year contenders, what our personal games of the year are. Games of the year are. The
Jay,
Woolly Strike Back.
Jay, you're botting a little bit, buddy.
I am crap.
Yeah, just a little bit.
Mr. Roboto over.
Yeah, you're sounding a little robotronic.
It's supposed to be an act.
So
You guys trick. You guys. Yeah.
I want to mention something. I want to build on something that you mentioned just now, Jay. I don't know if you guys saw or not, but the official Bubsy Twitter account actually tweeted out very excitedly, "We got a 7.6 out of 10, not 100." And I was like, only the creators of Bubsy would get that fucking excited about a 7.6.
The only way Bubsy can possibly come back is to embrace that it's awful and just run with it. Because you can't pretend.
Tim Rogers of
People like it.
Tim Rogers of Kotaku did a really good video on the new Bubsy.
I just like I love the incredulousness of that tweet, especially since it's like the official account. It was almost like this 7.6 like surprised the shit out of them, and they were like, "Oh my god, we got that high! Shit, let's fucking celebrate it!" I have no intention of playing that game, but it'll be very interesting to see how the actual reviews pan out.
Apparently, it's better than Sonic, whatever the fuck this game is. Sonic Forces.
Apparently, the shit that my dogs took on my carpet this morning when I woke up is better than Sonic Forces. I don't know if you guys saw the tweet from Digital Foundry, but apparently it's not good.
Yeah,
I heard that demo wasn't good.
The Sonic team just is not what it used to be. Sad.
No,
Sad.
I don't think anybody should have predicted that or expected that game would be anything above mediocre at best. Anyway,
I do think it'll end up selling much better than most recent Sonic games, simply off the fact that you can create your own avatar in it, and that's what that fan base really wants. They're freaking creepy about it. So
It's what I really want.
There are so many other games right now that demand my time and deserve my time. Like the first one that I'd like to talk about, which is Wolfenstein. And I've been waffling back and forth on whether or not I wanted to talk about Mario Odyssey first or whether or not I wanted to talk about Wolfenstein first. But so I finished Wolfenstein. I finished Wolfenstein last night, and obviously there's a lot to say about the game. I don't want to get into spoiler territory, clearly, especially since Brandon, I don't think you've actually finished it
I'm
yet.
3/4 through, so I've seen some shit.
I tweeted out or I can't remember if I put it in the DMs or if I tweeted it, but I said it was in the DMs. I said I said Wolfenstein just completely went off the fucking rails, ridiculous, and I love it. And Brandon knew exactly what I was talking about.
Exactly. And the same thing happened when I was in the official thread on Reset Era. Like someone was like, "I can't believe that happened." I was like, "Yeah, I know exactly where you're at." Exactly.
So Brandon, I want to gauge your reaction, like without actually saying what it was. Like what? Like okay, it's fucking ridiculous.
I mean, there have been multiple moments throughout that game where I just couldn't even process what was happening on the screen at the moment.
I think what we're talking about is
yeah, no, I know exactly which specific
like
you're talking about.
That moment to me, so like here's the thing: in any other game, oh god, I wish I could fucking say what it was. In any other game, I feel like that moment would have completely taken me out of the game. 100%, right? I would have said, okay, this is too much. Like this is fucking stupid. This is
because it wouldn't have been handled with the tone that it was.
Exactly.
It's the way that Machine Games frames the whole. And the Giant Bomb podcast touched on this in their discussion of the game. But it's just the reason that it works. Like they can have all these like insane serious moments is because they balance it with like what Giant Bomb said was like an optimism about the world, or at least just the cast. Like there's they're likable people in a really shitty situation. Unlike maybe say like The Last of Us, where like Joel isn't the most likable protagonist.
He's not. And so let's talk about that, right? Like BJ went from a protagonist I really loved in the New Order to, honest to God, probably my favorite protagonist of any game this generation.
And that was true for me when the New Order came out.
The way he is written. Like one of the things I loved about the New Order were his inner monologues, right? Like death at the gates, howling my name, can't greet you today, I got a war to win,
I'm in your house, General. Is this the day?
Yeah, and then on this one, he actually recreates that line. He says, "Death at the gates again, howling my name, come on in, old buddy. Sorry."
Yeah.
And I'm just like, oh god, and the way that he talks and the way that he. Because obviously this is not a spoiler. You find this out in the first 30 seconds of the game. BJ Blazkowicz is very, very hurt at the beginning of the game. Like his body's essentially broken from the grenade that Death's Head set off at the end of the first game. And he is preparing for a life where he's preparing for what little life he has left, and he's sad about potentially leaving Anya behind. And the way that the developer internalized and really kind of added color and character to his struggle just really, Brandon, you said something on Twitter, and I agree with you. You don't feel like you feel like the gameplay is good, but you mentioned that you didn't feel like it holds up to the standard that the New Order set, but the story is what is the kind of the glue that brings everything together.
Yeah, I mean, there is like actual steps back in gameplay mechanics from the New Order. Hit feedback is absolutely non-existent whatsoever in the New Order, and so this was a problem in the New Order, in that you couldn't really always tell when you were taking damage or what direction it was from. But in the new Colossus, it's actually even worse.
It is.
And so I went back and I watched gameplay videos on YouTube of the New Order because it's been a couple of years since I played it. And when BJ gets shot in the New Order, there's a red bar.
Yeah.
It's fairly visible in whichever direction you get shot. That isn't really there in the New Order. I'm sorry, the new Colossus. It's so easy to get those confused.
It really, really is.
But yeah, it's like, and this is like the number one complaint I've seen about the game is that you think you go into a fight full health, full armor. You think you're doing really well. And then you look down at your health and it's 20. And you're like, oh. I'm just gonna fucking die in one bullet. Okay.
So that is one of my gripes with the game. Like, and I don't have a lot of gripes on the game. I'm super high in the game, and it is in the conversation for my game of the year. But one issue I have with the game is that I'm playing it on medium, which I think is like a Bring It On difficulty.
Something like that. Yeah. I'm on playing it on Do or Die.
I cannot imagine playing it on Death Incarnate because just at the medium. I mean, I feel like this is on medium difficulty. Far more difficult than the New Order was
on Uber on its highest difficulty.
This
game is just straight up more difficult. Like they cranked it up.
Difficult in some points to the point where like I just dropped my controller in frustration.
Me too.
And like the scene that comes to mind without giving anything away, it involves a courtroom.
Yep. Exactly.
You know exactly what I'm talking about.
I tried that scene 20 times.
Yeah. That was and
like I said, I'm on Do or Die, which is two below the highest difficulty you can play on.
I can't even imagine
the first time you play the game, because there's an unlockable difficulty that no one will ever beat.
No, it's beating the game and not dying once,
which is like that makes Doom's hardest difficulty seem like
no, thank you.
Speaking of Doom, guys, you guys are talking really highly of the story. How does it compare to Doom's story?
So yeah, that's the interesting thing. I have a lot of thoughts on that.
Doom had a story.
Yeah.
Doom's story was phenomenal. I don't know what you guys are talking about.
I loved the tone of Doom.
It was
Doom's story was hey guys, this is 90s Doom all over again. Let's kick some ass and let's get on with this.
I mean, so what I loved about Doom's story, and I don't want to get too far off the mark from Wolfenstein, but what I will say is that while I don't think that Doom had a story per se, what I loved about what they did was Doom guy essentially takes the story at the very beginning of the game and punches it in the fucking face. Literally.
But there is still, hold on, like there is still lots of characterization to Doom that just isn't in your face. There's not all these cutscenes like Wolfenstein has. But if you want to fucking press the pause menu and go in to read all your logs, there was some fucking awesome writing. In Doom.
There is.
You had to seek it out, and most people probably wouldn't even bother reading it.
Rip and tear, man.
Until it's done. But
so the characterization of BJ Blazkowicz was something I didn't know I ever wanted, but it was exactly what I needed. And I think it was interesting the way that id rebooted Doom with the way Machine Games rebooted Wolfenstein. With Doom, they stayed very true to what Doom guy originally was. He's just the killer of demons.
He's the vehicle for the player's aggression.
And with BJ Blazkowicz, they went from Wolfenstein 09, which has BJ Blazkowicz in Wolfenstein 09 is as generic as any protagonist from any other game of that generation. He wears like a trench coat. He looks kind of like Max Payne. Like he doesn't even look like BJ from Wolfenstein 3D. He's not like blue-eyed and blonde-haired.
Yeah.
Or blondish red hair, I guess he had in the original. But yeah, and then so Machine Games takes it and they're like, you know what? We're gonna turn this guy into the warrior poet.
Well, and that's the thing. Like they're if you want to talk characterization, like this game has more heart and feeling in its narrative than I think it probably has any right to have. And like there are some very early on scenes, and by the way, describing these. So there are some scenes, some flashback scenes near the very beginning of the game where you see BJ's mom and his dad. And this is the first game I've ever played that liberally uses the N-word.
I mean, Mafia 3 did, I think, yeah.
Yeah, I never played Mafia 3.
Yeah, neither did I. But I mean, yeah, it's not a word that gets used in video games.
It's not. And so when I heard it, I was like, whoa. I was like, holy shit. And, for the, obviously it's a horrible word, but in the context that it's used, it makes sense for that character to use it. You know what I mean? Because he's a racist. He's a horrible racist. And it really made me hate the character that was using it, which is, BJ's father. He was just a terrible racist.
Yeah, BJ talks plenty about how awful his father is in the other games.
He does. And
now you get to see it.
And now it's finally up in your face. And it did. At first, I thought I would feel uncomfortable with the continued usage of that word, but it really actually drew me into the story. It made me really despise that character in a far more, I guess, visceral way than I imagined possible. Which just speaks to the quality of the, not just the writing but the voice acting in the game as well. I can't speak highly enough about what they did with the story and the characters in this game. I mean, it's and I like the fact that they brought Frau Engel back, Brandon. Yeah.
And she's used sparingly. She's not in a lot of scenes.
She's not front and center in the game.
I think that's mostly because, in the New Order, you had two villains. You had Death's Head and Engel. And so they both got a lot of, between the two of them, they got plenty of screen time. But now, you just basically have Frau Engel as the antagonist. So she's only going to show up once in a while.
Exactly. She is actually far more, I would say, villainous and over the top than she was in the first game.
Yeah, she's definitely had a personality change.
Yeah, like in the first game, she was a Nazi. You know, like she wasn't in your face. You know, she wasn't hey, Black Metal Gamer, what's up, man? But
if you think about the scene on the train in the New Order,
exactly, yeah. When she, you're talking about the card game.
Yep. Yeah, she's not like that at all in the New Colossus.
Brandon, I'm going to throw a comparison at you that I thought about at the end of the game, and do you know who she reminded me of at the end of the New Colossus after the credits rolled? She reminded me in a weird way of Kefka.
Okay.
In the sense that she is evil just for the sake of being evil. She's in your face. She laughs. She taunts you.
She loves being a Nazi.
She loves being evil, and you get the sense that deep down she knows that she's evil. Like she believes in her ideals.
I mean, she's cruel. She
takes pleasure in that cruelty, and in a strange way. Encountering her at the end of the game, I was like, she reminds me of Kefka Palazzo. From Final Fantasy VI, and I thought that was a really, really interesting comparison. Yeah, man, just what a fucking fun. It was, minor, difficulty issues aside, and that fucking courtrooms.
I mean, it's the game I've been waiting for since the day I finished the New Order. I was like, I need to see where this goes, where they're capable of going. I need to see it, and they.
So Go ahead. I really like what Bethesda's just been doing with all their older IPs that they own, just trying to redo them in interesting ways.
Yep.
Be it Prey or be it Doom or Wolfenstein.
I mean, when Bethesda first bought id back in 2009, I never saw this coming. Like the Doom reboot, the Wolfenstein reboot.
But then you look at the sales that these games are getting, and it's scary.
Yeah,
I don't think they're gonna keep going. As critically praised as they are, they just are not.
They can't because they have the cash cows of fucking Skyrim and Fallout 4 going for them.
I do not think Prey gets a sequel. I think Wolfenstein will get a sequel.
I think they'll finish the trilogy.
I think Wolfenstein 3 will be the last one.
Yeah.
But do you think if it does get a sequel, do you think it'll have like attached multiplayer with some ridiculous system for transactions?
I don't, but I also don't think it'll release in October. This was a terrible fucking time to release the game, especially on top of Mario Odyssey and Assassin's Creed Origins. This was a terrible fucking time with also Call of Duty World War II coming out the following week, which is now tomorrow. Terrible fucking time to release the game. Awful release.
Bethesda just doesn't know how to release games.
Bethesda doesn't know how the fuck to market and release their games.
So I think there are actually three problems right now with the recent Bethesda releases. There's the release timelines, which obviously like a lot of them just have not been great. They've been up against really high hitting stuff that is going to steal the market share. And then you've also got the advertising campaigns, which in most respects seem completely non-existent, and it's kind of confusing as to what the heck happened there. I guess it's because they see it as these games are probably not going to sell that much anyway, so we're not going to spend a lot of money on advertising. But the issue there is that if you don't spend the money on advertising, then it's going to do even worse than it would have done otherwise.
I think what happened is that, since Evil Within 2 released so close, all of their marketing muscles seem to be going behind Wolfenstein.
Yep.
And Evil Within got left out to dry.
Evil Within got the shaft, and that's a shame because it's a good fucking game.
I think the third thing that they're running up against now is that a lot of the games coming out now for $60 are these games that last forever as games as service games. And so the value proposition and the consumer mindset is just skewed right now. You can spend $60. Yeah. You can spend $60 for, an 8-hour single player campaign that's amazing, or you can spend $60 on Destiny 2 and play for 500 hours.
Yep.
Meanwhile, and the really unfortunate part about that is that I guarantee you, the 10 hours it took me to finish Wolfenstein 2 gave me a much more satisfying narrative.
Oh, I agree.
Destiny ever could hope to.
Yeah, absolutely. I completely agree. But you got to look at it from the mindset of the general consumer, not
the one who buys like 3 or 4 games a year.
Exactly. You want to spend your $60 on the crazy, huge, long ass games as a service games because they give you more money. They give you a bang for your buck,
Yep.
So I think going down the road, if they want to continue these kind of initiatives, they're probably going to have to lower their production budgets and then also maybe release it at a lower price to start out with.
And release it at a $40 date too.
the $40 price tier that they've started releasing games at now with Senua's Sacrifice and stuff like that. Like, I think that's an emerging price.
We have been seeing budget releases this year, which is like the first time we've seen that this generation, right?
Well, there was also Ratchet and Clank, and that did super well.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we've had these like kind of like spin-offs, like the Uncharted and Dishonored games that came out this year. Those came out like at $40-$30, and I feel like they did pretty well. I mean,
I actually, it's interesting to me because a lot of the more budget tier like releases, the ones that are in the $30-$40 range, seem to be coming either from Sony related properties or releasing Sony primary console, markets.
Yeah, but you also have to remember. You also have to remember. I mean, Uncharted: The Lost Legacy was DLC. I mean, it wasn't a full-throated.
Yeah. It's a standalone, but just Ratchet and Clank as well, and Senua's Sacrifice. Obviously, it released on PC too, but like PlayStation was its major market. It got advertised.
Well, that's a different story. Senua's, we're getting too far down the rabbit hole on this, but I will say that Senua's Sacrifice is different in the sense that it was an independent. It was published by the developer, so they didn't have to pay publisher's costs. So that's the reason. Had somebody else published it, that would have been a $59 game easily.
Yeah, and I think that's a part of the problem with these style of games that we're seeing out of Bethesda is that publishers insist that they have to be this $60 product. And the budget for development has to reach that $60 tier level. But I think if we just scale the budgets down a bit, adjust the pricing initially a bit, there's a market there.
I think it's humanly possible that Wolfenstein 3 comes out as a $40 The Old Blood style.
I hope not. This game deserves a 10 to 12 hour campaign to close it out, and you guys will see what I mean when you finish it. I mean, it very much the implications for the sequel at the end are enormous, and it ends on a very, very awesome, satisfying note.
So did Order 1886, but that's never getting a sequel.
Yeah,
but end on a very satisfying note, however.
Do not ever compare the Order 1886 to Wolfenstein.
I did it because I knew it'd make you happy, John.
That is terrible. That's what an awful comparison. But
Bulletstorm ended on a sequel, and then we never got a sequel to that. And
nobody cares about Bulletstorm's story, honestly.
Oh, by the way, I love the tweet from the developer of Bulletstorm.
Yeah, his tweet is garbage.
I was
come on,
get the fuck out of here! Like,
he said it's one of the worst AAA FPS he's ever played.
I'm like, dude, come on. But the last thing I'll say about Wolfenstein 2 is just I am actually more happy for Brandon than I'm anybody else, because Brandon has been talking about a sequel to The New Order since it came out. Came out, it's
the game I think about more than any other game.
I think
the last 3 years.
I think Brandon needed this to be good more than he needed Final Fantasy 15 to be good.
He has finally been unshackled from Overwatch. It happened.
Yeah. I'm not gonna play Overwatch the last few days, but I'll finish Wolfenstein.
Not for long though.
I was trying to grind out some loot boxes for the.
God!
You're part of the problem. But
absolutely.
Wolfenstein 2 is just an absolutely phenomenal experience, and honestly, in my opinion, and some people may disagree with me, but I think the single player campaign is better than Titanfall 2's, and Titanfall 2 had a very good single player campaign. But I mean, this is the most I would say probably up there with in the top tier of satisfying narrative experiences I've had this generation. Maybe
and it mostly just sits in the company of Starbreeze games.
Yeah.
The Darkness and Riddick. Because the thing is, like, I'm so happy that these games exist because nobody else makes first-person. Like, you can't even call them just straight-up first-person shooters because they're first-person adventure games. They have hubs, side quests, you know. They try to pace it out in a way that's much different from like Half-Life. It's not even the same as Half-Life.
Yeah, exactly. So I wanted to talk a little bit about Super Mario Odyssey, and I know that I don't think anybody else here has played it. So I will get through it quickly.
I know that people have been calling it the best Mario game ever.
It is. And
be my Christmas gift to myself eventually.
this is from somebody who up until Odyssey, I held firm in my belief that Super Mario Galaxy was the best one. That was
one or two.
One. Super Mario Galaxy 1. That was the pinnacle of the series to me until I played Odyssey. Odyssey is just, I don't throw this word around lightly, but I mean, it is, and there's no such thing as a perfect game, but this is about as close as you get.
There was a perfect game for the time.
Yeah, so like, and especially, and you know what, honestly, like, you know, these three games, I haven't picked up Assassin's Creed Origins yet, but I'll pick it up someday when it drops in price. But I picked up Wolfenstein 2 and Super Mario Odyssey on the same day, and I played Super Mario Odyssey all the way through before I even touched Wolfenstein, because in today's landscape with everything going on in the country right now, like I needed something joyous, and I knew that playing Wolfenstein, I knew before even playing it, the Wolfenstein 2 was going to be a dreary, bloody.
This is going to be a punch to the gut.
It's a kick in the face.
It's a kick in the fucking nuts, and
multiple blows all over the body.
I needed something happy in my life, and Super Mario Odyssey made me so happy. And I know that Jesse in chat says he doesn't think he just thinks it's a meh platformer. I respectfully disagree. I thought the platforming was top tier. The game oozes charm from every pore. And some of the little callbacks that I'm not going to ruin, but there are so many references going as far back, and little Easter eggs going as far back as Super Mario 64.
Yeah, I got one of the costumes spoiled for me earlier today. Apparently, there's a Super Mario 64 costume, and it looks amazing.
There is, but the Easter eggs for Super Mario 64 go deeper than that. And I'm not going to spoil them here. Brandon asked how long it took me to beat, so it took me 15 hours to beat the whole thing. It's going to take me another 50 hours to play it through to completion.
I also heard there's like a massive quantity of the moons to find. Like it's just kind of overwhelming.
There are 999 moons.
Yeah, that's insanity. That's like
after 25 hours, I have found 250.
Jesus.
And the nice thing, it's not just moons though. After you finish the game, you unlock another kingdom. And then when you get 250 moons, you unlock another kingdom. And then when you get 500 moons, you unlock another kingdom. I don't know what you unlock after that, but I do know there are 3 additional kingdoms to lock. When you get above, at some point above 500 moons, you unlock this very long, difficult platforming section where you only get one shot. There's all kinds of outfits to unlock. There's also like little side quests that pop up throughout the kingdoms when you beat it. A peach pops up in different places, and there are people who tell you to go this and do the thing. Like they're very simple stuff, but there are so many reasons. Hey, Matty Beast in chat, what's up, man? There are so many reasons to go back and play the game, and I am going to play this through, just like I did Galaxy. I'm going to play this through to completion, simply because it is. I mean, it's just such a wonderful game. In my opinion, anyway. It plays like a dream. The platforming is second to none. It's a joy to play. The outfits are there's so much fan service in the game. Like if you have the Dr. Amiibo Mario, you can unlock the Dr. Amiibo outfit right off the bat. And I've got a ton of Amiibo, so I've got the Wario outfit, there's a Waluigi outfit in the game. Dr. Mario, the Builder outfit from Super Mario or from Mario Maker. And the best part is it's a little touches, like there's a clown outfit you can wear, and if you wear the clown outfit and you go into the final boss fight against Bowser, spoiler, Bowser's final boss, I know that's shocking. He will say, "Or are you trying to make me afraid?" Well, it's not working. It's just like little stuff like that, because I guess he's afraid of clowns. Just such a, and I will say that New Donk City is far and away my favorite stage in a Mario game ever, and there's not a single enemy. It is just a
pure platformer.
It is just a playground of pipes and jumps and trying to find ways to game the system and little callbacks. And that's the other thing, like every now and then you'll find these little pixelated pipes on the wall or on the floor, and if you dive into them, if you go down them, it'll transition to that old school 2D. It looks just like the original Super Mario Brothers for the NES. The way they use
like a Link Between Worlds style of like.
Actually, that's apropos. That is what I thought of when I played it. But the way they use it is so fucking cool. There's one part in the Desert Kingdom where like you have to climb this big, circular tower, and you go to the pipe at the bottom, and as you're going through as 2D Mario, and you got Bullet Bills coming and Koopa Troopas, you just wind your way all the way around up the tower, and it is just, oh man, it's so fucking cool. It's been criticized for its difficulty. The campaign isn't especially difficult, but I'm fine with that. It's for me, it's more the sense of joy and exploration, and there's not very many penalties for dying. You lose some coins, but I actually like that because to me it encourages the player to experiment and to get out there and explore the world. And besides, some of the post game challenges are actually extremely difficult.
So about the moons, you said there are like 900 of them, right?
There are 999. There are more moons than there are Korok seeds in Breath of the Wild.
That's insane. So when you're going for these moons, like, is actually searching out for the moons and getting them compelling, or some of them just very simplistic, boring?
Some of them,
busy tasks.
There are the moons that are just there, and you can jump up and find a way to grab them. But there are some that are puzzles, and you've got to find a way. And you've got to find a way to actually get there or get to that place. And yeah, so some of them are legit head scratchers. Yeah. And Jesse in chat makes a good point. He says somebody said Mario isn't story intensive. So Black Metal Gamer said the Mario isn't story intensive in my opinion, so you can't really spoil a lighthearted platformer. And Jesse is correct when he says there are quite a number of things that rely on nostalgia, and you can totally spoil those. And I wouldn't. Sorry, I dropped my thing. And I wouldn't want those spoiled for anybody. There are things in this game you absolutely need to discover on your own. But yeah, just a wonderful game. And right now, it is the clear front runner. For me anyway, the clear front runner for Game of the Year for me. It is better than I ever could have hoped. And this game is going to fucking kill. I mean, it's already killing it at the register.
I mean, it's gonna absolutely destroy this holiday season, especially with bundles going out. Switch is gonna clean house.
So we got a question. So Black Metal Gamer in chat says, he wants to know if he thinks we'll get DLC. I would be surprised if we didn't.
I'm sure they'll probably release like individual kingdoms as DLC.
I would love that. That'll be something. Yeah, I agree. There will be something.
You can dress Mario as Link from The Legend of Zelda.
Like, for example, if they don't already have one, like a haunted kingdom with booze and stuff like that would be a DLC, or
and that's the thing. There's no booze in the game. Like,
don't spoil.
No booze.
That's not a spoiler. It's just there's just no booze.
Boo's like the second best Nintendo character.
Yeah, what the hell?
Boo's pretty awesome.
First one's Waluigi.
I am now incredibly disappointed.
No booze in the game. I mean,
What about bone turtles? Are they in the game at least?
Ooh, bone turtles.
Yes, they are actually. Dry bones. I found some flying.
Yeah, dry bones.
There are flying dry bones in the game. You got your Goombas. Spiny shells are back.
Lakitu?
There is Lakitu in the game. I did not see any Buzzy Beetles, but there are Hammer Brothers and Fire Brothers, Bullet Bills.
Hell yeah, Hammer Brothers. That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, dude, it's really fucking cool when you overtake a Hammer Brother. Finn's here. What's up, dude?
Hello, everybody.
But yeah, and I wanted to touch on something that Jesse said in chat because I think this is actually important to point out. He says, I haven't played a Mario game since Sunshine, so I don't really know. My problem with the bosses has more to do with structure. I will say this. Each stage has mini bosses and bosses. The bosses themselves, I think, are fucking cool because for the big bosses for every stage, you're not fighting them as Mario. You have to actually take over a certain enemy in order to properly damage them, which I think was a fucking awesome mechanic. The bosses themselves, I loved. It's the mini bosses where my only real problem with the game comes in. They introduced these characters called the Brutals, right? And I'm sure you've seen them in promotional material. They're basically fucking rabbits. They're like giant rabbits with hats, and they, one has a green jacket, one is tall. And
cross promotion.
No, so these are nowhere near close to rabbits at all. They're just like these rabbits, not rabbits. These rabbits that talk in gangster speak, like hey, what are you doing? And it is. the fight mechanics are so similar to what you would see like for the Koopalings that I'm just, and I hear Jesse, they're not good characters, and the only problem I have with the game. Otherwise, it's perfect. I found myself thinking, why didn't they just use like the Koopalings? Like,
what about the
rabbit characters? Like why not just use the Koopalings? What about Morton Koopa and Roy Koopa or like Bowser Jr.? Like, just use these
Marty
guys.
Koopa.
Like,
The Axum Range. Bring back the Axum Range.
the Axum Rangers would have been fucking epic.
The best.
Would have been epic. But aside from the Brutals, which were just not good characters, although I will say there is a boss fight against all four of them at the end that is really fucking cool.
What about the cat mechanics?
The cat mechanics are fucking so like. I tweeted out last week. I said Mario 1985 Mario boing boing, 2004 Mario It's a Me, and then 2017 Mario Suffer Me Now. Because dude, like I couldn't help but think like, so like my son was watching me play the game, right? And he loves it, and he's having a ball. And I took over a Goomba, and I just like jumped him off a cliff and laughed at it. And my son starts laughing. I was like, "What's so funny?" And he says, "You made him kill himself." And I'm like, "I guess I kind of did, didn't I?" And all of a sudden, it got super fucking dark. I was like, "Oh shit!" Then I started wondering, like, what's happening to their minds? Like, so Mario is basically this entire time he's been like this parasitic life form, and we never knew it. But the cat, I mean, yeah, so the capping mechanic is really cool. You can take over almost any enemy. That's not the case for you. Can't take over spiny shells. You can't take over a few other sort of enemies. But most enemies you can't take over, and you can use them in some really creative ways. And yeah, it's unique. And honestly, I would love to see this. I would love to see this mechanic brought back in a future Mario title with maybe a little bit of tweaking. It's great. It's actually really, really super cool. And yeah, I want to shout out Jesse in the chat again. A lot of shout outs for Jesse tonight. He says that would make more sense too, given the story. I agree. The Koopalings would have made a lot more sense in the story because Bowser is forcing Peach to marry him, and it would make sense that his kids would be at the wedding. Like, I was just like the whole time I'm like, where are the Koopalings? And these fucking rabbits are stupid.
So when you've been playing it, have you been playing it in handheld mode or on the TV more often?
I have been playing it in TV mode almost exclusively, simply because these worlds, like the kingdoms, are so big and beautiful that they deserve to be experienced on a big TV. Now, I played it in handheld and it looks fine, it runs fine. But if I'm at home and I don't have anything to do, I'm gonna play it on the television. That's what I would recommend.
I would play it on the television, but every time I try and dock it, my left analog stick fucks up.
Really?
Yeah, I can't. I can only play my Switch in handheld.
That's weird, dude.
I'm still not used to the Joy-Con controls. Like, they still throw me for a loop. Something about them just feels weird to me.
Well, sorry, go ahead, man. Go ahead.
I haven't really bought a Pro controller yet because they're so crazy expensive. So I imagine it's much better with one of those.
So it plays great with the Pro controller, and here's the thing about the Joy-Cons and Mario. Excuse me, man. There's beers going down weird tonight.
Apparently.
Dude, it went down the wrong pipe, and like if you ever had beer go down the wrong pipe, you're like,
I don't think I've ever had beer go down the wrong pipe.
Oh, dude, it's awful. It's happened to me twice tonight. But there are certain moves, like I don't like playing it in handheld, also because there are certain moves, like you can throw the cap up if you shake the Joy-Cons to the controller up. But if you're playing it in handheld mode and your Joy-Cons are attached, that's fucking almost impossible to do, right? You're shaking your whole Switch up. And so
Why would I do that?
I have no idea. Like, it's the most counterintuitive thing I've ever seen in my life. And I was like, oh, this is so terrible. Like, what are you doing?
Is there at least like an option to have buttons assigned to it or something? Like,
no. So why? So if you want to like throw your cap in the air and you're playing in handheld mode, you've got to flip the whole fucking.
There goes my plans for playing this on the airplane.
So here's the thing. Like, all the moves all the motion control moves are unnecessary. You don't need to do them. So you can play it in handheld just fine. I just thought it was an odd design choice. But I mean, yeah. Aside from the Brutals, who are just dumb fucking characters. It's a beautiful, amazing. Finn, have you played Mario Odyssey yet? Finn. He was here.
You're muted, man.
Finn, you're
muted.
muted.
All right, sorry. I have not had much experience with it yet, but I know someone that has been playing a lot of Mario Odyssey.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Oh Lord.
I mean,
At least we can't fucking. Oh, hold on. Are you driving?
Well, we're driving home from Thor, so
Okay, at least you're not on camera like you were last time when you were driving.
No, I'm
I remember
glad
that.
Saki has played. Apparently, what's the best Mario game of all time?
But Saki has been playing it almost
Oh,
exclusively.
You're not fucking driving right now, are you, Finn? Please tell me she's driving. Okay, good.
Calm down.
I just want to point out the last time you did this, for anybody in chat who wasn't here, the last time Finn did this and he was driving, he was actually driving the car and he put himself on camera and he's like, "Hey guys," and I'm like, "Finn, fucking look at the road, dude. What are you doing? Jesus."
Look,
Like-
all I'm saying.
That's
I'm not saying
dedication.
I'm
He
the
put his
most
life on the line
dedicated
for us.
member of this podcast. I'm just saying I'm up there. Okay.
Jesus. But
So anyway, you were saying this is like the front runner to your game of the year stuff. So why don't we start talking about that? That was one of the things we were going to try to talk about, right?
yeah, so I real quick, Assassin's Creed Origins, I haven't fucking played it. I don't own it. Has anybody else here played it? Does anybody want to talk about that?
Nope, I don't know shit about it.
Just
I
Going
I
by
hate
the
Odyssey.
early sales buzz on it, it seems to be doing pretty well, which is
Seems-
surprising to me.
Seems to be doing.
Yeah,
It's not
I don't
surprising to me.
It shouldn't be very surprising. It's I feel like waiting a year really helped refresh and revitalize it for people.
Yeah,
I kind of thought that the Assassin's Creed brand was just kind of going down.
That's
Like,
why. That's why
losing relevance.
that's why they took a year off. And
Yeah, I realized that, but I guess I just didn't think the year was going to be enough to get things and get interest back up to the level that it needed to be. But I'm
Yeah,
wrong,
so-
I guess.
So here's my question: do we want to talk about what our front runners for Game of the Year are so far, or do we want to talk about the? We can talk about them both. Do we want to do that first, or do we want to talk about the Last of Us 2 trailer?
Let's just talk about Paris game show first.
Okay, let's do that. Overall, I'll just jump in. I thought it was dull. I thought there were some interesting moments and some good-looking games, but overall, we didn't really. The Sucker Punch game looks great. And then there's
Ghost of Tsushima looks
Ghost of
amazing. Yeah.
Tsushima. Yeah, that
Yeah.
looks
it
good.
looked real good.
I as somebody who is a huge fan of Tenchu from back in the day, I am so giddily excited about the idea of an open world like ninja game.
I would love
cannot
this to be like
wait.
the second coming of Tenchu. Yeah.
Yeah, I can't wait to see some gameplay out of this. I'm really hopeful about it. So hopefully we'll get some gameplay snippets sometime soon.
I think I'm like the only person on earth who's hoping for another Infamous game with Cole McGrath, but that's just me.
No, I would be down for another Cole game. Like I would love a new Infamous game, but
People are like, "John, you're fucking crazy." I'm like,
No, you're crazy.
I am happy Sucker Punch is working on something new because it keeps it from getting stale.
I gotta say that I prefer new IPs, especially given that they've been on the same IP through a generation transition. Like one of the things I was really disappointed about this gen was that Naughty Dog did not do a new IP, and that I found that really disappointing.
Or they haven't
they
done
suck.
one yet.
Right, they've stuck to Uncharted and Last of Us, which Last of Us kind of makes sense because the game was at the end of the last gen, but I don't know. I feel like it'd have been much cooler to see them come out with something new. And so yeah, anyway, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, so Black Metal Gamer in chat says, "Where's Dreams?" Is that RIP? As far as Paris Games Week goes, I don't care how many times Media Molecule denies it. Otherwise, until I see that game, I don't think it's coming out.
Dreams just had an article in Rolling Stone like last month.
I don't care. Scalebound had all kinds of articles written on it, and that game was fucking 86.
Dead.
So here's the thing, guys. Like, I'm not the biggest Media Molecule fan. I think the way their games control is weird, and I don't like them. But they have been doing regular like developer plays and making some kind of gameplay mode on like a Twitch stream. Like they do that on a regular basis, at least once or twice a month. So like the game is still there. They're still making it. Why it skipped Paris Games Week, I have no idea, but it's still a game that is happening. You can look at their Twitch streams, so you can see that it's still there.
Yeah, I mean, it's still there. It's just not getting like mainstream coverage.
I think it's a really
So what
hard
about-
thing to sell. Like,
It is.
Events.
Well, so as far as games that we know are coming out, honestly, the most exciting thing I saw there, excuse me, was Shadow of the Colossus by far. By far.
I mean,
that
game's
looked
a
really
known
good.
Classic, yeah.
Did you see the trailer that they aired after the show that was
I did
the
mention.
intro of the first game of Shadow of the Colossus redone in the new game?
No,
So
but I'm
you
gonna
can
have to
compare
fucking
them
look at it
side
now.
by side. It looks so amazing. You should definitely check it out.
So here's the
It's
one
good
unfortunate.
because
Go
my
ahead.
top games of that show are the ones no one else talks about, but they like really.
Concrete Genie, man.
Concrete
Concrete
Genie,
Genie actually looks good.
Erica,
I'm really excited for
and
Splunky
Onrush.
too.
Those three games just
So
blew me away.
So here's one unfortunate thing that I've learned about Shadow of the Colossus. So I don't know if you guys talked about, or I talked about Jesus. I don't know if you guys saw that Marty Sleva actually got the chance to play the game. Marty Sleva from IGN, and he said while it looks and runs incredible, like it actually doesn't look like a slideshow anymore, Brandon.
Yeah, 20 FPS. Oh yeah.
But unfortunately, as it stands right now, this could change. The game is coming out in February, but as it stands right now, it has the exact same control scheme that the PS2
So
had, which was awful.
I could be mistaken, but I'm pretty sure I read that basically what they're going to do is they're going to have a optional control scheme for more modernized controls
I fucking hope
and
so.
a classic control scheme. But even the modernized control scheme, they're not going to revamp everything because the controls, like, they're a big part of that game, especially with like the grip meter and everything. Like, it's meant to feel awkward. So they commented on how they didn't want to eliminate that. So I'm a little curious as to what they're going to do for like a more modernized set of controls. Obviously, like the optional classic controls would be just the exact same way. So we'll see. Either way, I think it's going to be worth checking out, especially since it's basically a budget title. It's another one of those $40 titles we were talking about earlier.
Yeah, I mean, this isn't a remaster though. This is being completely rebuilt from the ground up, right?
Yeah, it's a complete remake. Yeah, it's a total remake.
Well, technically, if you think about it, so is Ratchet and Clank, and that was also a $40 title.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah,
a hard way to do it.
Well, Ratchet and Clank was not just a remake either. Like, they basically redid the entire story for the first game.
That's
and
true.
yeah, they used it as like a skeleton for it, but they redid basically everything else. You know, so I think maybe that was a bit more of a remake than Shadow of the Colossus is, because it's basically literally the same game completely rebuilt. Whereas Ratchet and Clank was kind of the same game, but completely made new.
I'll tell you another game that has been really impressing me. We saw this at Paris Games Week was Spider-Man. I'm a huge Spider-Man fan. I'm a huge Marvel Comics fan. And we got to see another. I don't know if you guys, Finn, you especially. Apparently, the Shocker is in the game.
Yep.
Like the Shocker is in every fucking Spider-Man game. What was it?
And he introduced Miles Morales too.
Miles Morales is there.
Cool.
So we've got Norman Osborn is apparently either the mayor or he's running for mayor. I can't remember which one it was.
Running for mayor because Wilson Fisk just got arrested.
Okay, so I am assuming we'll see the Goblin at some point. But my question is Mr. Negative? Is he the main villain of the game?
I think he's the starting villain.
Yeah,
I think he's the villain that introduces you to the character because he has that Peter Parker and Spider-Man mix really well that they were talking about. They wanted to really emphasize with the game. They wanted to have both Peter Parker's life and Spider-Man's life take center stage.
But he's not the main antagonist of the game.
Right. I think he's the starting antagonist because he can bring those two pieces together really well. That would be my guess anyway. Okay.
I mean, I guess that makes a little more sense because Mr. Negative, like, obviously at this point he's been around for several years, but he doesn't have the mind share that like a Green Goblin or a Venom or a Doc Ock has. You know. But it'll be interesting to see what other villains are in the game because as far as we know, all I know of are Norman Osborn, Martin Lee, who is Mr. Negative, the Shocker, and Kingpin. And Kingpin is apparently your ally for at least part of the game. A Black Metal Gamer in chat says, "I hope we get Venom or Carnage in the future." I don't think Venom's going to pop up in this one.
Yeah, I don't really see that happening.
I don't see Venom.
I got Spider-Man 2.
What was that?
Your mic is muted, man.
Yeah,
I hope that in Spider-Man 1, Peter Parker has to choose between Mary Jane or Gwen.
You choose Mary Jane every time. Redheads for life, baby. Redheads for life. And I'm not talking like, I'm not talking Kirsten Dunst, freaking always angry Peter Parker, no fun Mary Jane. I'm talking like fun, spunky Mary Jane. But then again, I'm married to a redhead, so I'm biased.
So that is another thing I noticed about the trailer. It looks like Mary Jane maybe is going to be a reporter or something.
I noticed that too, actually.
And maybe we might get to play as her, or at least see through her eyes.
That would be kind of cool.
Going by the trailers. Yeah. I don't know. There are a lot of things in the trailer that I'm interested in finding out more about. But it was cool.
I want this to be the Arkham Asylum game that Spider-Man has always deserved. And with Insomniac at the helm, I'm confident it will at least be great. I mean, Insomniac just doesn't make bad games. So Black Metal Gamer Chess is Mysterio. I'd love to see Mysterio in the game. But why don't we talk about the two trailers that everybody seems to be focusing on real quick?
Spelunky 2.
Spelunky 2 is going to be fucking fantastic. And it has not been announced. Guacamelee 2 is going to be my jam, and you know it's coming to Switch. It's coming to Switch.
Definitely.
I didn't like the first one.
Of course you didn't.
The music.
I'm sorry.
I don't even know why I bother anymore. Like, of course Jay didn't like Guacamelee because Jay doesn't like anything good or fun.
I didn't like the humor in it, and like I don't know.
So something I do want to mention before we get to those two trailers. I find it a really odd decision that Call of Duty World War II has just basically not shown any single-player campaign footage, like, at all during its pre-release build-up for marketing. Does anybody else find that odd? Like,
who cares about the single-player campaigns in Call of Duty? All I care about is the Normandy hub world where I can hang out with my friends and buy loot boxes
that fall in from the sky. Yeah.
So I want to talk about
the good stuff.
I want to talk about the Detroit and The Last of Us 2 trailers because they are both being talked about right now for the same reason, and that is the level of violence present in the trailers. Of course, in the Detroit trailer, you've got some pretty vivid depictions of child abuse, and then in the Last of Us 2 trailer, you've got a woman essentially being tortured and mutilated. So it's a complex issue, and I've got two different ways I'm looking at it. Actually, Susan Arndt, our friend Susan Arndt, unfortunately she couldn't be on the podcast tonight, but she did give an opinion to me in DMs that I'll read here in a minute. But I wanted to get your guys' take on. I guess let's talk about The Last of Us 2 because that's the one that everybody is seemingly focused on right now. So the trailer starts off, and you've got a two women actually being captured by what appears to be some kind of a religious sect, and one of them is being hung and interrogated, and the other one is pinned down, and she has essentially her arm broken by what just looks like a hammer, just a big ass hammer. And it is very, very vivid. Like, you can feel her bones crunch. You see her elbow go the opposite direction. And it's not something that you normally see. I mean, here's the thing. I've seen more violent acts in games. I've committed a more violent act in a game. I mean, in The Last of Us,
but not against women or children or something.
So here's the thing, right? Like in The Last of Us, you can literally beat a man to death with a brick. So in this trailer, it's outside of the player's control, but it's also violence against a female, which you don't see. That kind of level of violence against a female in a game you don't see very often, and especially not like in a trailer for a game at a big trade show.
That's what did it for me. Is just I wasn't ready for a trailer to not cut away.
So I'm gonna have a little bit of an interesting viewpoint on this because I'm one of those weird people that didn't really like Last of Us because
you are weird.
It disturbed me a lot more than I
don't worry. I think it's a bad game as well.
Of course you do.
I didn't think it was necessarily a bad game. I just think it wasn't for me. Like it was too gut wrenching in a lot of ways. And I think that trailer that we saw at Paris Games Week was ratcheting that up a bit. And I think that this is what we're trying. This is what these studios are trying to do to kind of push the boundaries more. Because if you think about it, up until recently, like children and women, like even in games where everybody was killable, like Fallout, like children and women are protected, and you can't hurt them or damage them. And that started to change more and more as time has gone on. And now, as we're starting to try to see games addressing these really difficult issues like child abuse, like, people taking advantage of one another, cults and torture and things like that, like we're starting to see more and more violence. And as they're pushing those boundaries, they're also pushing it in the direction of, okay, well, it's not only men that are going to be hurt by these things. In fact, with child abuse, it's got to be a child, right? You can't really address child abuse without having a child subject to that. So I can see where it's coming from, but that doesn't mean I'm comfortable with it.
So
And it's something that makes me very apprehensive about playing those games personally.
does somebody want to jump on this before I give my take?
Actually, John,
I very much agree with Rex.
John, if you don't mind, I remember you mentioning how you didn't just want it to be all male voices. Caitlin actually has feelings about that. She watched the trailer because she knew it was a hot button issue. So if you don't mind, could she?
As long as she talks in her voice and not that Saki voice.
That's fine.
Okay.
Sucks, but it's fine. So Last of Us, the first thing for me at least was I hope that the woman inflicting the torture was actually going to be a complex character and it wasn't just token violence. Because the same people who love Negan on The Walking Dead, I don't want them crying foul just because the same type of personality has boobs. So I'm conflicted because violence against women is obviously horrible, but I'm just stuck between, do I want complex characters who are female and at what cost?
Oh, okay, so here's my take on it. And I'll kind of I see where you're coming from, and I also see where Rex and Jay are coming from. Brandon, do you want to drop your opinion before I go?
I mean, like I said, I was fine with it. I loved The Last of Us. I've seen plenty of crazy shit in my life, but it was just I wasn't ready at that moment that I was watching it to not like I was expecting it to cut away. Every video game trailer would cut away at the moment she starts.
I think another part of it is the lack of context there. Like there wasn't a lot of context to.
So that's my problem. And so, okay, so I'll stop here because that is my problem. Like everybody knows, or most people on this podcast, or most people who watch us know my background, and Brandon has the same background. I was a Marine. I have been involved in violence. I have an intimate familiarity with violence. I have seen violent acts, and I have committed violent acts myself. Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. But that is not the problem that I had. Simply because, and I don't know if that means I'm desensitized to it or not, but violence is a fact of life. And I have seen worse in movies and television than I did in that trailer. My issue is not that it was violence against a woman per se, even though it was weird to see that because you don't generally see that a lot in games. My problem was the complete and utter lack of context. It was just violence for the sake of violence. If there is meaning behind the act, and you can contextualize that and frame that in a narrative, then to me, and I think to a lot of people, that would have made it a much easier pill to swallow. As it stands, it's a scene with characters that we don't know. We don't know. I mean, it's The Last of Us, and we don't know any of these characters at all. And Mitty says, maybe I can drop some thoughts as a female in the chat. At least, please, Mitty, by all means, drop them in there. I want everybody to talk. But that was my problem in the sense that I was like, okay, so a woman got her arm broken, and why? Like who are these characters? Why am I supposed to care?
I don't think it was a very good trailer.
I don't think it was a very good trailer
I love
either.
The Last of Us.
So my theory is that
hold on, real quick. Hold on. I want to quickly finish this. And then I want you to go. I guess my biggest issue was it came off to me as and Naughty Dog is normally much better than this, so I'm surprised by this, but it came off to me as just an attempt to say, look how edgy and violent our game can be.
Right.
And that's kind of where I'm at. And then so after you go, I'll read Susan's response, which I think you guys are going to like. But please go ahead.
Okay. Well, I was actually surprised that personally the subject matter of the Detroit trailer I felt would have been more upsetting to me, but just because of the lack of context in the Last of Us trailer, it ended up upsetting me a little bit more than the Detroit trailer, even though there was, and I think it was simply because of that context. Like the Detroit trailer had that context in it. You saw the build up, you saw the characters involved, you know. So even though the subject matter was scary, it was affecting, it was at least in a bubble of context. You could sort it out. Whereas the Last of Us trailer just kind of escalated out of nowhere. And I think my theory is that
it went from 0 to 100 like really fucking quickly.
My theory is that they were probably asked to put something at Paris Games Week simply because of the reaction to the E3 show. They wanted to really pull out the stops for Paris Games Week, and so they wanted Last of Us there, and they kind of rushed last minute to get something out. And I just don't think it was up to par of the stuff that they would normally do there. And the lack of context really shows. I think that it's something that they're going to learn the hard way now. So
yeah, I'm going to have to agree with you on that one. I really think that this wasn't what they initially envisioned being the next look, because it's literally just a cutscene we're dropped into with, I mean, context is all that matters. And of course, when the game comes out, we'll have all the context in the world. It won't be an issue. But as other people better than me have pointed out, this is what they chose to debut on a worldwide
that's kind of what gets me, yeah.
Press conference. This is what they chose to be their marketing to the masses. This wasn't an enthusiast like direct. This was Paris Games Week, broadcast worldwide.
Oh, and that's why I think it's really interesting to put the two trailers next to each other, because you've got Detroit with this trailer that's addressing something that is so disturbing and it's real, and because of the context, even though it upset people, I feel like it wasn't as offensive to the vast majority of people because of the context there. And then you put it up next to the Last of Us trailer, and it's like this exaggerated form of violence in this fictional setting, but even with all those extra layers, there's not enough context there to wrap your head around it.
So let me frame it like this, and then I'm going to read Susan's answer, which is probably not what you guys are expecting. Had that been, I guess my big issue, if we're talking about lack of context, had that woman who had her arm broken, had that been Ellie or Joel, I think we would be having a much different conversation right now, because we know these characters, we understand, we've journeyed with these characters, we've experienced their trials and their tribulations, we are intimately involved with these characters at this point. And had that been Joel or Ellie, we would have been like, oh fuck, no, you can't do that to Joel. Oh fuck you, and we would have wanted to kill these people. We would have had a much more powerful reaction to that. So yeah, for me, I'm just like, it fell flat for me, because I'm like, who are these characters?
Yeah,
I don't care. Like,
yeah.
You know, like I don't know, man. Like I don't know. Am I wrong? I was just like,
it's
okay.
At
like,
the very least, it opens up a conversation for, hey, who's the pregnant woman? Is that?
By
Ellie's
the way,
mother?
It's obviously Ellie's mother. I mean,
yeah.
Just cut the bullshit.
I mean,
like,
at least it opens up a conversation.
So it's almost like, because you don't know these characters, because you don't understand the situation, you're kind of detached from the actual story part of that scene. So what you're left with is what you see. Like, and when what you see is so disturbing, like, it's more affecting. You don't have that background in your head going through, like, why is this happening in the story, things like that. You just see what you see, and you don't understand anything else about what's going on.
So somebody in chat, I missed it, but they said, I think these people may be relatives to somebody in the first game. Yeah, that pregnant woman is absolutely Ellie's mother. Absolutely. And she's fucking jacked, by the way. I was like, holy shit.
They showed the body
So anyway,
that they used for the she's fucking jacked.
Please read the person's comment.
Yeah, I want to read Susan. So Susan, who used to be Games Radar, obviously everybody knows her. Great friend of the podcast, good friend of mine. I asked her in DM. I sent her a DM and I asked her what she thought about this. And unfortunately, she couldn't make it on tonight, but she did give an answer. So I said, "So Susan, what do you think of this?" So she watched the trailer, and this is her response. You guys are gonna like this. This is just read this and let's listen to this and imagine Susan saying it. All I see are tough women. They're not crying in a corner or asking for mercy. They know it's coming. Girlfriend isn't a nuisance. She's still going to choke a bitch out. What kind of woman does Ellie want to grow up to be? If all you've ever known in that world is pain, gender doesn't mean shit. You fight or you die, period. There are two questions. Is it problematic? Not in my opinion. And is it a good trailer? Also not in my opinion. A trailer is supposed to sell you on the game. What was that selling? I'm reading a lot of context into it based on what I know from the first game, but maybe that context doesn't exist.
Yeah.
And then she says,
again,
and then she also says, and I asked her another question. She says, I am also of the unpopular belief that the idea you never hit a woman ever is bullshit. Bitch is coming at you with a knife. You clock her. I just want to remind everybody, this is Susan talking, not me. and she said, and then I said, yeah, I agree with you. And she says, right, but there's a very strong all violence against women is the worst thing ever movement. And given its goal, I can't argue with it, even though it's not accurate. And I thought that was a very interesting statement.
Yeah, I don't really see the fact that it was perpetrated against a woman as the issue. I think the gruesomeness of what was perpetrated in the trailer and the lack of context kind of compounds the issue. And she also hits on that lack of context as an issue as to why the trailer isn't effective. And yeah, honestly, I think context is the major issue.
Well, and it's the same thing for the Detroit trailer as well, which depicted and honestly, for me, here's the thing about the Detroit trailer. I grew up a victim of severe physical abuse, when I was a kid. And I thought that I would have a much more visceral reaction to that than I did, but I didn't. And I think the reason why is, one is I'm 37 years old now, and this happened to me, 20 something on, more than that, fucking, 15, 16 years ago. Oh shit, more than that. Jesus Christ, I'm getting old. Yeah, shit, fucking 20 something years ago. God damn, that's depressing. So I didn't have the visceral reaction to that I did the Last of Us trailer, simply because there, like you guys very astutely pointed out, there's context in there.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Dio in chat says Detroit is worse because David Cage is a fucking hack.
Yeah. See that
he is
the trailer itself didn't upset me much, but the idea of David Cage trying to handle something that.
Did you read the interviews?
No, I didn't. Bad, though.
You have to read the Eurogamer interview.
I have never been more scared to play a David Cage game in my life. I don't think I'm gonna play it.
So
this is the guy who said his
he's
game
trying
has nothing to say.
He's trying to handle so many different really difficult topics in this game, and I feel like he's just gonna go through them like taking hammer to glass just every single time, being as unsubtle as humanly possible with all of them.
David Cage has the subtlety of a fucking chainsaw in a factory.
But that said, I think the trailer was good and it was effective because it had that context in it.
Again, Dio in chat says, in quotes, it's a quote, would you ask the same if you were interviewing a movie director? Fuck you, Cage.
Well, I don't know that reference, but
it's from the interview he gave. And David Cage, I do not have any faith that he's going to tackle these issues with any sort of nuance.
To be fair, I think he's not the writer this time, right? He's just the designer.
He has a co-writer.
He's a co-writer credit.
Yeah.
Right. So maybe we're wrong. It could be that.
Maybe it's still his game. It's still.
Yeah, it's still a David Cage game. I mean.
Yeah. For a game that's going to try to tackle all these different important things, I think it would be amazing if it was a good game, if it addressed them well, because that would do a lot for gaming as a whole. Seeing a game that addresses so many of these topics.
Jesse says he's the Yui Bowl of gaming. That's actually a.
I won't go that far. I
Oh
actually.
my god, this Apple software update just crashed my computer.
And no, you're still here. I can still hear you.
God damn it.
I can. It's a miracle.
I'll have to
Man. You still with
restart.
us.
Oh wait, hold on.
How are you still here? You crashed your computer.
It's frozen.
Okay.
So
You're still here. So Dio in chat has another quote from David Cage. It says, "This is," and I quote, says, "It's not like I go and say, hey, let's write about child abuse." And then he says, "Yes, Cage is exactly like that. Writing isn't in a vacuum." And Jesse said, "The other writer finished like 18 months ago, and Davis had that long to fuck things up."
oh god, no.
That's perfect.
Oh lord.
Glorious.
Okay.
All right. Well, so I think we probably beat this one to death. At least beat.
Yeah, I think
we beat this one in the arm.
No,
but,
too soon.
Oh,
Too soon.
boy.
That's not okay.
It's time. It's time to clip this conversation's wings.
No, bad. Don't do that shit.
Just a quick reminder that Bubsy the Woolly Strike Back is out now on Steam and PlayStation 4.
And you should absolutely ignore it and go play Super Mario Odyssey.
The best part I've ever seen about that game was watching Patrick Klepek play it on Waypoint and give up after like 20 minutes.
Did he really? Oh,
yeah.
That I have
I streamed it, and then you can just see the moment all hope and joy leaves his face, and he shuts it down.
I have to watch that.
Yeah, I really enjoyed Tim Rogers playing it for Kotaku. That was a fun video.
All right, well, I think it's time to give away. I'm going to have to end the podcast just a little.
Hell of a game.
I've got to be up super.
Oh, we don't have time to talk about like game of the year.
I think I think it's too. I've been thinking about that. Like, don't you guys think it's too early to be talking about?
You know. Let's just say one game that we've really enjoyed playing this year.
Yeah.
Okay, let's do that. All right. We'll start. No, that's good. We'll start with Brandon.
Okay. It's fucking Wolfenstein, obviously. Like I said, it's the game that I was waiting for since the day I finished the New Order. So
you would say that is your front runner, easy front runner for Game of the Year. Right?
Easy front runner, easy.
Okay, I don't see anything coming up that's going to surpass that for Brandon at this point.
Impossible.
Jay, what about you? Please don't say Bubsy. You're going to say fucking Bubsy.
Probably.
Not sarcastically.
No. NBA 2K18.
Okay, that's fair. I'll take that.
It's a fun game. It has its issues, but I feel like gameplay wise, it's the best 2K they've released since 2K11.
At this point, I still I worry when inside my soul whenever I ask you what you think a good game is. So, but that is unacceptable.
Like it has its issues with virtual currency and whatnot, and like that stuff really sucks. But I feel like if you want to like go straight like play, like it's the best one out there.
That is an acceptable answer. I'll take that. Rex, what about you?
So for me, it's got to be Neo this year. Like the game has its flaws, it has its issues, but it reminds me of the style of game that I haven't played in a long time. It's this kind of arcadey, old school gameplay in a lot of ways, with the way that the level selection is handled and the loot system. It actually kind of gives me similar vibes to like old school Phantasy Star Online in some ways. And I also love the combat system in it. It never gets old. I've put like so many hours into it, just making different builds, seeing what'll work. And they've added tons of content to it over the year. Like it's crazy the amount of stuff they've added. But yeah, that's probably my favorite game so far this year. I've put a lot of time into that, and I've enjoyed almost all of it. Occasionally, I'll run into a cheap ass boss or something, but outside of that, it's been great.
The toad almost broke.
Dude, the toad was not even a half of cheap ones. Like there are later missions where you have to fight multiple bosses at once.
Yeah, I know.
But they added, so with the recent update they added something called the Abyss, and I'm working my way through that right now. There's like 1,000 levels. It's like a tower style system where you have like different levels of difficulty, and in each one you get better rewards, and you can like change your gear by defiling it and all this stuff. Like lots of new systems and all that. So I've been working my way through that, and I've been enjoying it for the most part.
All right. Finn, what about you, man?
At the moment, it's still either Horizon Zero Dawn or Dead Cells.
I can't. I really want Dead Cells to come to a console.
If it came to the Switch or PlayStation or Xbox, like it would be great.
I think it's going to happen.
Of course it will. I have zero doubt about that. It's just it's once it leaves early access, but until then, anyway, it's definitely up between them. They both scratch different itches I have. If I had to choose, Horizon was just an overall more complete experience for me, and I just was thoroughly engaged by it. And then I also have an expansion to look forward to in the same year, so who knows? I will be considering that as part of the game when I make my final listings, so it could elevate it or it could lower it. Who knows what the Frozen Wilds will do.
Okay. That's coming out next week. Holy shit. Final Fantasy 15 Companions comes out next week, too. I'll be playing that because I'm a huge Final Fantasy
I thought that got delayed.
It got delayed from October 31st to November 7th.
Okay. Okay.
So for me, I have a tie as well. Right now it is between Super Mario Odyssey and Hellblade: Senua's Sacrifice.
Wow.
Hellblade was just
Hellblade is amazing.
Hellblade not only has great, satisfying combat and a really deep, thoughtful story, but the way, as somebody who deals with his own mental illness, the way that they handled that aspect of the game, and not just that, but if you there's a documentary that you can watch about the thought process and the research that they did, and they brought psychologists in to kind of school them on psychosis. It was just such a I could not have imagined it. I've dealt with my own mental illness my entire life, and I could not have imagined the subject would ever be tackled with that much grace and thoughtfulness. Because normally, when you see mental illness in games depicted, you get images of I'll use Kafka again as an example, right, Brandon? Like he's just fucking insane. Or another good one. I'm sure Brandon's played it. Fucking not Xenogears. Not Xenoblade.
Is it an RPG?
Xenosaga.
Xenosaga. No, I never played it.
So there's a character that named Albedo, and he is very much like Kafka in the sense that he's just fucking batshit crazy. Those are the kind, or Frau Engel is another great example, Brandon. Crazy for the sake of being crazy, but Senua herself. It's the way that for people in chat who haven't played it, I don't want to say too much about it. Just go play Hellblade. It is an amazing fucking experience. And
I need to get back to it.
Oh, dude! The great combat and the amazing visuals are just the cherry on top for me. They're the real story. There is the character of Senua herself and her struggle, her inner monologue, and the way she deals with the voices in her head. And I just want to point out that Melina Jurgens, who is the voice actress and the motion actress who played her, that's the first time she's ever done anything like that. She's a developer for the game. It's the first voice acting, first mocap she's ever done.
Yeah, she started off as just like the test person while they cast a real person, and then they were like, "Oh wait, no, you're amazing."
Yeah, it was unbelievable what she did with that character, and I hope she has I hope she goes on to do that again with other characters in other games, because she just did a phenomenal job. And of course, Super Mario Odyssey, I've already gushed about that at the beginning of the podcast, so I'm not going to go back over that. Phenomenal game, but it is those two games for me that are tied for my game of the year. And speaking of Super Mario Odyssey, we've got a copy of Super Mario Odyssey to give away. So the condition was that you not only retweet what the official podcast is going to tweet it up, but also that you sub to the channel. And we did our winner before we came on, and that person has met both of these criteria. And actually, that person is in chat tonight, which is good. So the winner of Super Mario Odyssey for tonight is... You all ready for this? It's Chris Reyes at Kai5209. So, Chris, you have won. Super Mario Odyssey for the Switch. You know my Twitter at Mr. Megative. Obviously, you know it. Hit me up on Twitter. and just DM me your address if you're comfortable doing that, and I will. It's a physical copy. I will pack it up and send it to you, and you can enjoy your copy of Super Mario Odyssey, man. So congratulations.
I like to tell everyone that I originally won it.
Yeah, Jay originally won, but unfortunately, members of the podcast cannot be winners.
Also, I don't like Mario, so
yes, it would have been completely lost on you. So I would not have allowed you to have it anyway. You wouldn't have appreciated Mario like he deserves.
Too many games to buy this year, man.
It is a fucking bananas year for games.
It was a bad year to get addicted to Overwatch.
There's like 9 more games I want to buy and play before the year's over. It's insane.
Yep. But anyway, we've almost hit our breaking point here, so we'll go ahead and we will call it a day. We're still trying to figure out what day Mike Huber is going to be back on, but he will be back on soon. He's just got Paris Games Week and everything going on. It's a very busy season for them, so as soon as we get him on, he will be on, and I will keep you guys posted as to that. But Rex, it's been a while since you've been with us so thanks, buddy. We appreciate you coming back on.
Yeah, of course. Scheduling is kind of a little difficult because of the time difference.
What time is it there?
It is now 11 o'clock in the afternoon. So yeah,
Okay.
Wow.
it falls on a work day for me usually, but today is a public holiday here, so no work for me. Yeah.
All right, so awesome. Well, we will go ahead and close that out there. Jay, you did a fantastic job opening the show, and I will bring it to a close. So please don't forget to join us next week, as always, at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We appreciate you guys joining us. Jesse in chat says he got another 30 moons doing this podcast. My man. That's what I'm going to do since we're done here for about 5 minutes before I go to bed, because every time I'm not playing Super Mario Odyssey, all I want to do is play Super Mario Odyssey. So until next week, guys, it's not always poetry, and we don't always agree, but we always keep it real. So until we see you again, be good to each other, enjoy your games, and take care of yourselves. See you later.
Bye, guys.
Good night.